Welcome to the Trending XR podcast, where we discuss the latest in augmented reality, virtual reality, and AI with industry leaders who are shaping the future of how we will work, socialize, and go about our daily lives in the third dimension. In the not so distant future, we won't even be using phones. We'll be using these. I know, sounds crazy, but we have never been closer to this future concept becoming our current reality. I am so excited to share this new world with you. I hope to teach you, inspire you, and ignite your passion for extended reality. It's time to change dimensions. Are you coming? Welcome back to the Trending XR podcast. Today's guest is the co-founder of PsyTech VR, an AI-powered virtual reality therapy app. We're going to explore the intersection of mental health and tech and the profound new methods that their team has developed. I'd like to welcome on Daniil Andreev.
Hey, thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. I'm pretty excited for this conversation because it's one I haven't had yet with anyone in the space, which is looking into the therapy side of using tech in VR specifically, which is like such a cool avenue that you don't really meet people every day that work in that space. There's a lot of therapists I've met, but there's not a lot of people who work in therapy and
In
VR,
VR.
which is like, yeah, it's cool. And I think it's such a great tool to have out there for people because of, and we'll get into, that convo. But it's just like a nice accessibility tool for people in the therapy space.
Yeah. Thank you. So we're changing the stigma. So you're absolutely right. Um, so traditional mental health providers, they've not thought about the VR in colleges and universities. So that's why not so many mental health providers are even trying to apply VR because of many reasons, right? But it seems like we're changing the stigma. So we have back to 2021, me and my co-founder Peter, we created PsyTech VR. PsyTech VR is a mental health and wellness therapy platform where we work in terms of mental health with different exposure to phobias, OCD, trauma, PTSD, and addictions. And we also offer a lot of different relaxation practices such as mindfulness, meditations, breathing, and all these things are happening in the headset. And one thing I'll mention is this is the platform that used in the medical practice by mental health providers. So it's a tool which providers use to treat their patients' anxieties or practice relaxation skills.
Yeah, that's something I'd love to talk about. Maybe we can get into that here after we do like a short intro about yourself. Is the medical professionals' view on what they've seen by using or being shown what you guys have worked on and how they're maybe using it with their patients. But if you want to start with kind of giving us your background, I think my favorite kind of thing to start podcasts off with is to ask you if you can recall like a very specific moment
Mhm.
in your past that kicked you into this path
Right.
of one, therapy, and two, VR.
Well, so I have a story. My background is in finance, and later I start learning a lot of IT, gaining skills, going for different courses, kind of a learning and relearning itself. And I'm very like entrepreneurial soul. So I went to the university in 2016, starting my bachelor, and since the first year, I started doing some startups, some small startups, and around 2020, 2019, 2020, I came up with the idea of VR lab in the university where I was studying. And actually, surprisingly, the dean, he was very grateful to hear about such technology. And by that moment, the Oculus has presented Oculus Quest 2. We're happy to present that nowadays, back to the days, VR became very accessible. So we started doing something in this university where I became like a manager of this whole lab. So that was my initial kind of first steps into the VR. And I was doing a lot of use cases because kind of when you apply VR in the university, if you want to survive, you have to find use cases, which means that you don't necessarily need to bring VR to accounting or maybe VR to some other areas where you don't have great practical cases. But I started searching for some nice cases of applying VR, and we found some. But something actually happened in I would say late 2020. So my mom, it's a second part of the story. So she's a therapist, and she
Okay.
was running like a whole kids psychology department in a clinic. And back to the days, she something happened. She came back home very upset. We were having like a dinner, and my mom, she revealed a story which became like a key to this whole site experience. So my mom, she was running a practice and she was kind of working with one guy who was experiencing a very severe case of phobia of heights. And as every therapist, she was applying exposure therapy. So the guy was just literally sitting in the chair with closed eyes. And my mom, she prepared him. And next, she was giving him a script of emotional exposure, right? So imagine the doors of the elevator open. You walk towards the floor of this building and you can see a boardroom. And next, you can see like a view over the city from the bird's perspective. And this is how the emotional therapy, emotional exposure usually running, but actually something went completely wrong. So he was trying to push himself to imagine it, but unfortunately, there was no success. And sometimes this happens. But this guy, he was very emotional and he ran out of the therapy room and he kind of left at in the mid conversation and consultations. And my mom, she was very upset because she's like a clinical head of department, right? So she came back home, she told me the story, and surprisingly, I had my Oculus with me that time. And yeah, there was a very fun game. It was called Reach a Plank. If you can later kind of bring a picture of it. It was just, the doors of the elevator open and you can see it probably in New York, and it's a plank where you can go. And my mom, she was amazed and surprised at the same time. She said, "This is something that we ask our clients to imagine." And that was a moment, like a life bingo. I had the
Yeah.
headset. My mom had a use case, and later I met my partner Peter, which is doing a lot of interesting things in terms of IT since 1993, if I'm not mistaken. So that's where we started. That was at 2021 when we founded PsyTech VR, early 21, and that's the story of IT and therapy.
That's a cool story. I love origin stories. I think it's always these random occurrences that spark this cool idea. That's a great one. I think that which is also really interesting how that led to that because as therapists, like you said, you kind of have to walk through this like imagination therapy where you're trying to get this person who's deathly afraid of heights to imagine something they don't want to imagine, And that's it's complicated in its own nature, right? And you
Yeah.
can't necessarily just take this person to a high-rise building for a therapy session and walk
Right.
them up near a window, for obvious reasons,
Yeah.
that, for like insurance purposes or like, just the logistics of doing
Yeah.
that, right? Is complicated. So yeah, you solve that by using extended reality. And I think that's the testament to all really good technology is are you using it to solve something that we're currently doing, but doing it better? Right, and I think
Right.
that's kind of what you stumbled upon there, and it's a great origin story.
Yeah, yeah. So just for all the listeners to know, so there is probably like three major ways how you can work with phobias and with anxieties. There is emotional exposure we talked about. There is a VR exposure therapy, which is now gaining a lot of interest. And there's another one,
Mhm,
like you mentioned, it's called in vivo therapy. And the mental health provider doesn't really necessarily need to use only one. We call it gradual exposure, where you can start with emotional exposure, next showcase the VR, And once the client is ready, they can go to in vivo therapy. So I'm just trying to say that we're not reinventing the wheel. We have created such a tool that can be implemented into the practice, into the existing modalities.
I got you. Yeah, adding an arm of the experience of kind of gradually
Yeah.
getting them to that point of solving their fear or working on something that they're working through mentally. I think that's great. I guess that kind of like would be a good question to lead into is what's been so through this process of like developing this so far. What has been two questions? What has been the biggest challenge, and what has been the maybe, like, the coolest thing that you kinda stumbled in that was kinda maybe a breakthrough or something that you found fascinating?
Oh, yeah. I got a real answer for both this. So actually, my answer will consist of like a two parts. So first of all, when we started in 21, we just created like an APK. You just open it. It had like a very nice user interface, pretty cozy room where you can choose the place where you want to go. Like you could go to the elevator, you could go to the heights, you could go somewhere else. And itself, it was quite a cool experience. And we tried to start selling. And one of the biggest challenges we faced first is mental health providers, they need a platform. So a platform of services. For them, just to have an app in the headset is not enough. There is a lot of different things that they care of during the therapy session. For example, they need to adjust the cranial exposure. I'll give you an example. If you're going to the phobia of spiders, the clinician, the therapist need to adjust the amount of spiders, kind of how the spider work,
Um,
kind of they are quiet or they're more aggressive, right? And we really needed the platform, and because Oculus casting, and I know listeners know about the Oculus casting, it's just providing you with a small piece of kind of you could just only look what your client is doing without an option to control. So I think it took us about a year to build up a platform, and next it was 23, and next we realized that the care, like this mental health care, it needs to be very tailored. Phobias is just a piece, and I'll tell you something. If you take a kind of a mental health provider, and if you see who are their clients, uh, top clients are coming with trauma, and about 5-7% is coming with phobias. So we started creating a tool which was just taking that much of therapist attention, right? And we start thinking about the trauma. What trauma we have? We can imagine the trauma of military related things. We can imagine kind of a domestic abuse trauma, traffic collisions trauma. This can be trauma because of the natural disasters like floods, earthquakes, and such. And our team, we've been thinking like, all right, so it was quite easy with phobias. You could create a room, you could create the spiders, which worked. But with trauma, we need to be very personalized. And we imagined ourselves creating thousands of scenarios for one or another trauma. And we thought that mission impossible. So we found an AI. We found the AI which helped us to create 360 images out of text prompt. And this is what solved us the second challenge. So first we introduced the platform, which was quite easy in use. And next we solved one of the biggest challenges of all these platforms, meeting the needs of each particular client. And with this AI to generate 360 images, we start offering first relaxations, tailored relaxations. And next, when we fine tune the AI, we start offering the AI exposures. For example, if your client is coming with trauma, let's say in Iraq, because of the some kind of events happening there, right? You just ask our AI, hey, create an Iraqi village, create like destroyed buildings, fire, blood, if it's applicable, and the AI start creating tailored exposure environments, which the mental health providers really enjoy nowadays.
yeah, that is really cool. The AI conversation I knew was going to come up at some point here, but I didn't know that that's how you guys were using it. So you're building HDRIs basically, right? So that's
Right.
like a globe,
Yeah.
for layman terms.
Yep.
And you're doing this live, which is like the incredible power of AI and the putting that power in the capacity, or sorry, in the hands of uh the therapist and the person that's there for therapy is crazy. Like we've never to 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 be able to sit there in the spot on a conversation and be able to come up with a world to work through problems like that. We've never had that before. And I think that's so powerful because, you know, you're trying to like do therapy through just like seeing what they're thinking. If the person themselves can type out, here's what I went through, here's what I'm seeing in my head that I can't get out of. They can like communicate a visual representation of this thing that's like destroying them inside. That's so useful. That's so powerful, and you can change it on the fly, and that's amazing that
Yep.
you guys are using it
You can
for that.
fine tune, you can add sounds, you can need some visual effects. We start adding kind of an option to customize because it's a 360 image. You need some liveness. We start adding some visual effects like butterflies flying or maybe blood or
Yeah.
like rain, etc. So the therapist can really find this tailored exposure for each individual needs.
I think which is so important, right? Because people are so different,
Yep.
even across just PTSD from Iraq. Each person to
Yeah.
person's completely different
Hmm.
in how they're processing that.
Oh,
So,
right.
having that just like tailorability on the fly is like
Hmm.
that's something that has never been done before,
Yeah.
right?
If I can add something on top of it, so I'll tell you, when we start doing PsyTech VR, we start getting requests from a lot of people from Europe, from even from South Africa. We've been getting requests from the clinics, from hospitals, from Nigeria. And when we were showing our stuff, and yeah, I can, actually, I think I'm allowed to share the screen. I can show you some cool stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Just a sec. So we didn't ask like, hey guys, so you get a library of a lot of different scenarios, but those scenarios are definitely not applicable to our place, right? And we've been saying,
Hmm.
okay, we'll find a solution. And I think it's great that we found the AI. So I'll show you. One of the examples could look like the phobia of heights. So that's how PsyTech dashboard looks like. We'll go here to the heights, and this could be a balcony, which could be okay for, let's say, for the US. The settings looks like a apartment with some view over the city, which was kind of fine. But when we had requests from France, from South Africa, even from Asia, though the scenarios, they didn't really meet the needs, right? Because the landscapes are different. If the phobia of heights here looks like this, it may look like totally different in a different town or place, right? And that's why I think
I
that
see.
the AI adds a lot, where you can create the exposure. uh, just we'll try something with you. I'll go here, uh, ask the AI create something. It will take around a minute, I think, and we'll see. So, for example, I'll come up with idea of maybe mountains, hiking
Oh,
route.
I got one for you.
Let's go.
So my stepdad is definitely afraid of heights.
Hikes. Okay.
I think it's the fear of falling actually,
Oh,
but maybe you could type this in. We were taking a trip up to it was Mount St. Helens, and there's this road, and there's like kind of like a steep drop off to the right, and he can't do that. It like overwhelms him having this like steep edge next to him.
uh-huh.
So that'd be kind of interesting just to use that as a prompt maybe.
Yeah, yep. We can even specify the place. Let's say we got a clinic in Thailand. We'll go here. We'll say Thailand. Um, let's say mountains, deep edge. We'll say somewhere like a sunset. We'll click create exposure. So yeah, here the magic happens. Maybe we'll
That's
speed up
relatively
the.
fast. For a HDRI, that's really cool
Yeah,
that you guys
yeah,
can do it in under a minute. That's really useful because in a therapy session, you don't really have time for, 30-minute renders. So I think that was probably a big technical challenge for you guys, making sure that you can get this done in under a
right.
certain amount of time, right?
Right, right. And we learn how you can at the same time control the one headset or even 20 headsets at the same time, because there's a lot of requests for group therapy, group relaxation practices. So you simply
Yeah.
connect the headset for the Wi-Fi and you can run these scenarios simultaneously. And yeah, let's have a look. So we get something. I think we get
Wow.
something.
That's
Let's
pretty
see.
great.
Yeah, looks great. We're
Yeah,
like
right on an edge.
we're
Yeah.
like on the edge. I promise in the VR it will look totally different. We are right at the edge. So no, pretty cool. That's
This is great.
yeah. With our next feature, and oh sorry, with our next version of the AI, we'll introduce the AI where you can walk. So you'll have an option to kind of to walk a little bit, and
Yeah.
the 360 will create not a 360 but actually a 3D world out of text prompt.
Yeah, this is like some really interesting stuff coming out of the Google Labs right now, which is the ability to generate worlds and walk around in them in
Right.
games. It's like we're entering a whole new world. And this is I just jumped off another podcast with Matthew Bird, and we were talking about it's kind of all about the creativity of like having these new technologies that come out. It's like, well, how do we use them? And like there's a million ways to use them. And it's the most creative people are gonna come up with
Yeah.
stuff like that, like implementing like 3D world generation. I'm like, what would you use that for besides games? Therapy. Like I
Therapy.
would have never thought of that. You know,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah, very cool.
Well,
Thank you for
yeah.
showing us that demo.
Yeah. We actually we tried the AI to create exposures, and in the same way you can create AI for you can use AI for relaxation practices because someone would like to meditate like somewhere in the sky, maybe floating in the
Yeah.
clouds. Someone would like to meditate somewhere in the cosmos shape, right? So depends. So AI can help.
Yeah. That's the lovely thing about that what you're building there in AI is like everyone's got the capacity to create their own individual experience,
Yeah.
which is like really powerful, you know. Whereas before it been very very difficult to service all of these people's different needs and ideas and wants,
Mhm.
because it was like technically difficult. You had to 3D model all that stuff, and it's a lot of data and time and money. So, but now we're entering this time where like anyone can create anything on a whim, and it's like it's remarkable.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a lot of studies on the background. So not so many people know, but if you go to the Google Scholar, you'll find about like 200,000 articles presenting the efficacy of VR therapy. Uh, Efficacy of VR therapy over exposure therapy, right? Over immersion exposure, over in vivo therapy. It seems like VR therapy has something very interesting. So first of all, it's very immersive as in vivo therapy, because kind of it's happening right in front of the eyes. It's working with your vision, with your hearing, with the feeling of surroundings in VR, right? But it's also safe as immersion exposure because you're still sitting in the chair of your therapist room. The therapist can always pause a session or send you to the safe place. And, VR stands in the middle. But again, we don't reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great capacity to have the control of being able to kind of like
Yeah.
bounce in and out of the thing. Like whereas like you know, if you're in your thoughts, that might be a little more complicated to control. I think the visual element kind of like holds people in that spot, you know, and then having the option to kind of like enter into like a sensory deprivation room. There's like it's back just like a peaceful, you know, experience. So like you're not overwhelming people, and that's kind of that's an amazing tool to have because it's a very touch and go type thing, therapy. You know, some people
Yeah.
take more time than others. So that's really cool. You sparked a memory for me with AI and therapy, where when ChatGPT came out with voice mode, I was like, oh, this is really interesting. It's so fluid that I can just talk to this thing. It's talking back to me, and there's like no ping. It's like instant.
Yeah.
That alone is remarkable. But I was like, man, this is like it's like a companion. It's like I could talk to. It feels real. And I was
Mhm.
like, what if you use this for therapy? And I trialed it out, and I gave it I made up a scenario. I talked like I was very sad, and it was like picking up on my emotion,
Right.
and like commenting on like, hey, it sounds like you're like, you know, really upset. Like what's going on? So it felt like real, like a real conversation with someone that was really understanding and like processing and coming up with like very humanistic responses on how to maybe approach that thing. It wasn't just like reading me something off a website, you know, it was very, very, very organic. And I was like, wow. I was like, this is so amazing because like not everybody wants to go to a therapist. not everybody is ready to do that, and is
Oh
much more
yeah.
comfortable just talking to something that's really well educated in the therapy space that can help work them through this problem. Or maybe they don't have the time. It's like this simple thing they just need to dump, and they just need some advice really fast. Like having that on the go in your pocket, wow! Like what a powerful tool, right?
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. When I was trying this voice feature, I was like driving somewhere, just activating for the CarPlay some voice stuff, was speaking about this. Oh, and I totally agree with you about some people are scared of going, some people just ethically don't want to go and tell about the trauma, right? Sometimes it's happening that there is a good mental health provider in a certain space, and his schedule is booked for the next month, and you waiting for the therapy for months, where you need help now. But for these companies that try to get into the EAI, and there's a couple of I can give you an example. There's a very interesting company called Replica with C at the end, and they have created an avatar, and I think they started by positioning themselves as like a mental kind of a mental assistant AI avatar. And next, I think I saw that they changed their positioning and they became like a friend AI. And they made a label that they have nothing to deal with psychotherapy, psychology, because it's very important. Otherwise, you'll have a big deal with FDA, because you are either creating a digital tool, which is going to be in a use of mental health provider, or if you want to help to create such a self-treatment thing, you have to go and register for the FDA. In Europe, you have to get the medical device thing, and it's a big drama. It's a big drama. So
Uh,
it's hard
Is
for
that
the
a hurdle you
startups.
guys?
Well,
Is that a hurdle you guys have had to jump through?
I think at PsyTech VR we really because there's a lot of paper, there's a lot of things happening in the air, a lot of people speaking, there's a lot of articles. What we did, we had the chance to meet ex-FDA people. Those became our consultants, and they went to our website, indicated each word, each red flag word, and we changed it. So it's very important how you position yourself. So at PsyTech we position ourselves as a digital tool, in a medical practice of mental health professional.
Yeah, that's complicated. That it's like it's the red tape of just trying to do something good for everybody, it's
Yeah,
but I understand both sides, but yeah, it's like, we're
right.
trying to build something useful here to help people. I think it's great what you guys are doing. I
Yeah.
really do.
And I love that your podcast is called XR Podcast, because at PsyTech VR, we're starting with virtual reality, but there is definitely a move towards the mixed reality or even augmented reality glasses. I can give you a few nice examples. So in the virtual reality, we
Yeah.
can create, let's say, a room full of spiders. But if we take one of these MetaQuest headsets, right, it has these cameras right here. So we can really show the room. And let's say we can position a spider on the hand of the person, maybe on the table. This can be related to phobias. This can be as well related to some other scenarios, maybe of OCD. There are some people that have, let's say, issues with contamination. So you can put like a cigarette here or a syringe. So there is definitely a role. There's definitely a door for new developments for the therapy in terms of augmented. And at first I'll say mixed, and next augmented reality.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a big AR guy. I'm like I love VR. I think it's great.
Yeah,
I'm like I'm a nerd for the AR side of things, and I think that that's totally feasible
right.
here in the next few years as AR glasses start to roll out, and
Mhm.
over the next 5 years as they start to accelerate their capacities. I think that that's something that you could easily transfer over to AR and have a
Yeah,
similar
yeah.
experience, right?
And I
Yeah.
personally, I oh, yeah, I
No, go ahead.
just want to add that I personally share one idea that we'll still have VR in the future. So there's a lot of great use cases of VR which can't be implemented in the mixed reality or augmented reality and vice versa. So we'll still have this VR, MR, and AR for different use cases, because some of the companies ask us like, hey guys, so you're now using MetaQuest, but what, for example, kind of a Meta come up with Oakley or Ray-Ban, and kind of are you going towards this market? And we say there is a lot of great cases for the therapy in VR, which we will never have an option to substitute with other R technologies.
Yeah, and like I think that's the super cool thing about AR and VR is that they both do different things in each other
Oh
very
yeah.
well, you know? And
Yeah.
I think that's a that leads to a great question for you. I guess what's your vision for the future, like near future, right? Because this tech isn't, crazy far out, we're here. So what's your vision for the intersection of tech and therapy moving into like the next decade here?
Brilliant question. So I would say that nowadays it's hard to say what will happen like in 10 years. I absolutely agree with you, or even like 5 years, but we really look into the headset providers, create some special models. For example, let's say the MetaQuest will ever come up with a MetaQuest Pro 2, where we could have the not only the eye tracking, but also like a face expressions tracking. So what's going on, right? So there is a lot of interesting companies who are trying to create biosensors, wearable biosensors like Nary, Emotive, and such. And people are trying to mix the biosensors with headsets, which usually, due to the form factor, are very hard to be combined. Because if you take like an EEG mask or something, well, and if you take a headset, the sensors will always kind of you'll always struggle to measure the real data because the sensor doesn't stay at one place, right? Because of the form factor of the headset. So we absolutely looking in terms of the therapy to go into the tracking, eye tracking, face expressions tracking, into the tracking of some vitals, some important stuff which can
Yeah,
track
haptics
blood. Oh yeah, sure, sure. This
or
can
like
be.
I guess like a watch or something you'd wear
Yeah,
that tracks your vitals or a
yeah,
ring.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep. And this can be also related to galvanic skin response. For example, we can track the arousal, right? So this controllers could be equipped, some special controllers. I'm not talking about like a consumer's market, right? But
Yeah.
maybe we could measure some stuff from the uh yeah, from the blood pressure. It's more complicated story, but we really look towards that. So yeah, this is something related to health, and I would say to have a one store, like a one app store, a one united store for different platforms, because every time we have to port the app to the Meta, to the HTC, to the Pico, we have apps in free stores, and we have the submission process every time. So it will be so great if we could find this store which can unite different platforms.
That I think is such a great thing to say. I don't think anyone talks about this, looking into like the future stuff. Well, first, I think that yeah, I think that's a really cool outlook on the adding some like blood pressure monitors, like a ring or like an Apple Watch, and like collecting that data and using that in the experience, because that has a lot of tells when someone's like getting anxious or scared, like their heart rate goes up. I think that's brilliant. I think that'd be a great ad. But as well as moving to the future here with like how all these headsets connect to one place, like, 'cause it's very complicated with all these different hardwares and all their different platforms and all their different developer SDKs and files that they accept. It's like it's so complex, and I personally agree. I would love to see that. Um, unfortunately, I just don't see I don't see big tech playing nice with each other, and I think it's just going to be this like war for like you know user experience just staying on their platforms. It's
Well,
just like a
yeah.
really interesting combo. Like, where are we gonna be like with headsets and maps? Like, what shows up on the Meta AR glasses and what shows up on the HTC
All
or what
right.
shows up on, all these different companies, like, how does that gonna work? I'm so curious about,
Mhm.
the
And
future of
the
that
AI
too.
assistant, who's going to be the default AI assistant for this? Because HTC came up with their own something like a smart glasses. I would rather call them smart glasses, if you can agree with me, just because they're not really AR, but just like the
Yeah.
nice
Oh,
glasses
yeah,
with
smart
some,
glasses.
yep, some AI system there.
Mhm.
It's going to be the default AI system for all the system. So yeah, well, hopefully, but we'll see if
I
they
think
can
that
agree.
you're dead on. I think, like, what we've seen with, the last couple months of smart glasses kinda, like, really starting to roll out from all these different providers, I think they're amazing. They're kind of this like in between step for VR and AR, for like full on AR glasses. I think this is going to be a really great case study for us AR folks to see like how they play together. You know, like how are they starting to structure this? Is this a community, and we're all kind of building this like really cool product for like all these people, or is it going to be more cutthroat and like more isolated? I don't know. I hope it's not, but
There's actually one more interesting thing to share. There's I know one lady. So I think she was living in Texas and now she moved to a different place. So what she's actually doing, she's actually building a OS, an operational system for the computers for
yeah,
mental health providers. You know,
okay,
the plan is like to open the laptop, to have some HIPAA, GDPR and related compliant platforms. She's also talking to us about the PsyTech VR, like how to integrate it there. And because mental health providers, they really care about the privacy. At PsyTech VR, we have one exercise where we implemented, we use Unreal Engine 5. We implemented the MetaHuman,
yeah,
and you have like a conversational AI. And when you start the app requires some permissions for the microphone, right? So every time the mental health providers see, they're like, because it's not written there that it's specifically for metahuman public speaking exercise, right? So they really care about their privacy, and I feel like she's creating her own OS, and it's super smart. It's a great idea, and there's definitely a market for it.
yeah. That's really cool. I guess that tags back on the question I had for you earlier. Is kind of like how are like the professionals viewing this the implementation of tech in
Right.
therapy?
It seems like this a population of mental health providers who are in between age of like 20 to like let's imagine 50. But I actually have a few clients who are like 60 plus years and they love VR. Every time we have an update, they're like first people to try it, early access things and such. So
That's surprising.
there is like there's definitely like a certain age of mental health providers who accept it. And at SciTech VR, we have a bigger mission. Just the way of helping individuals, because at SciTech we offer the app to mental health providers, but actually our end users are their patients. So we have a first mission is to help people, but the second and also very important is to change the stigma. So we start partnering up with a lot of different universities, with University of Stanford, University of Michigan, and other universities where we implementing this into the curriculum. So we're bringing this app to the faculties, and they got like maybe something related to digital psychology, digital mental health classes where we implement it. And if they see it now, hopefully after the graduation in 5, 6, 7 years, they will come and say, "Hey, SciPac, we used it on our classes." So yeah, we changing the stigma. We changing the stigma. Uh, and we even see that there's a stigma when we're trying to apply for the conferences. For example, there is a few fast top-notch conferences in psychology, which are American Psychological Association or ADA, Anxiety and Depression Association of America. Unfortunately, we are facing such a tough time of getting to the conferences. But smaller conferences, they really pay attention to new tech. And we like twice or even 4 times a year, we present PsyTech somewhere.
That's kind of a good question. Like I guess back earlier, I was saying, what's your biggest technical challenge, or I guess like industry challenge that you face so far? Is that maybe like where you're having the hardest time is kind of like breaking in because of like the legal dance of like of therapy and or just like an experience or a
Oh,
walkthrough. What was the term you guys used for it?
um, I personally, if I'll go from the different side. So I'll tell you something. So most of the mental health providers we see are coming with headsets. They usually tell fun and very nice stories that, yeah, kind of a year ago I purchased this for my son, and it's time for for the mother, for the father to return the investment. I want to try it in my practice. So they come with their own devices, which is great. For those that haven't yet purchased a headset, we're doing bundles. So in our office, we kind of we pack headsets, deliver the headsets. We recently did a very big sell to Hawaii, and it was very interesting also. So I think one of the challenges we face is the um, um, the amount of services we offer, and year by year, we're getting more modalities and more exposure scenarios, more practices in PsyTech VR. Because when we just started with VR, I told you that was like 5 to 7% of the kind of the clients, and some of the therapists even don't work with phobia; they work with trauma, right? So I think meeting the needs and also offering a platform, I think that are the biggest challenge we're facing, we're solving now.
So, you found that there's quite a bit of avenues that need these very specific tools built out. So it's like managing the tech stack and like
Yeah.
and building all that out, and then like once you build it, you got to maintain it. So like yeah, that it stacks up. So yeah, that is technically challenging. That's pretty tough, especially working in like a more evolving field and hardware as well.
Yeah.
So
We started offering workshops. So we partner up with a few clinics, one in the Florida, another one in Israel, and our they were our clients from the beginning of PsyTech VR. And next we converted them into advisors, and they help us create workshops. So each mental health professional, each mental health provider, they have to go through the accreditation process and get the credits to kind of complete their license every year. And together with these clinics, we created a dedicated course: how to use, how to apply, how to market this VR therapy. So creating a technology, creating a platform is just only one piece. Another one is marketing. And we see the such things as we offer courses, workshops, podcasts. This really help.
yeah. Yeah, that's getting the community of users is always very challenging. You can
Yeah.
build the thing, but then you gotta get the people to use it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think you guys are kind of nailing all those avenues. You're working with schools and everything that you just said now. So I think that's it's great that you guys are working on that. It's always a big feat to build the user base. But I do believe you guys have built something that's very useful. And I mean I admire the commitment to building out more tools and more controls for the therapists and more available experience control from the user side, from the person who's doing therapy, to create their own HDRIs and environments and kind of like help guide them through that by having available a deep available bench of tools. Yeah, it's pretty great. Um, I'd love to dive that into like asking you about maybe some stats if you have like any observations or user stats or data available on him
Oh, sure,
from your
sure.
experience so far in the space. Yeah.
Just allow me a few seconds. I'll bring this screen of my experience where. So, as I told you, there is a decent number of studies on the Google Scholar. And actually, we're so lucky. One of our advisors, his name is Dr. Albert Rizzo, and he's probably like a godfather of all this VR therapy. He's doing the study. He's a research professor at UCF, and he specialized in VR therapy. He was creating a lot of platforms himself, but also been doing a lot of studies. And I've taken a few screenshots from one of his presentations. So there's quite a few interesting studies. For example, in one of the medical centers, they run a study of applying the virtual reality therapy with people who had PTSD. And there was about 20 people running this. They were measuring the effect of um, pre, post, kind of how people were feeling. There was a special questionnaire there. And applying the VR therapy, it only took about like 11 sessions, and the effect of having this feeling of trauma or slight trauma was decreasing during the week after the session, and even 3 months after. So, that was very curated study. with people working with trauma, and they were using a special questionnaire. It's called PCLM, and they were measuring scores. So even with some objective data, it shows that the VR therapy works. There was some well, that's also about this study. So you can see the assessments of people. So each dot, it's like the assessment of people. And it says that it actually saying that there was like about 16 successful cases of applying the VR therapy, comparing to all these participants. You can see that before the treatment, the stress was like about 70, and after applying the VR, it went down like 2 times. And even a follow-up after 2 months really showed that there are no symptoms.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great testament to that. This works for people, and they prefer it even sometimes. If I'd love to, if there was some sort of data out there to see at some point. Maybe I could plug it in after we do the podcast of like people's testimonies, like who
All
have done
right.
traditional therapy versus doing
Mhm,
this, and like
mhm,
which do they prefer.
mhm.
But seeing that it's successful is great. It's like, here's your evidence. This is like, this is one case or just one set of data. Sure, there's a lot more out there
Mhm.
that,
Yeah.
is a testament to why this is such a great technology for
Speak,
therapy.
Speaking of testimonials, I find it really interesting because we have a lot of clients who are applying the VR therapy with teenagers, adolescents, and sometimes even kids over 10 years. And they find that VR therapy really works for this population because, kids, they into the games, into the kind of a PlayStation stuff, computer stuff, phone games and stuff. And when the kids are coming for the therapy, they really fell in love because this is the language. The mental health providers start speaking the same language they do. And my mom, so I told you, she's a clinical psychologist. She's working a lot with distant patients, and during pandemic times, I saw it was so hard for her to focus the client, the kid, during the session by just running a Zoom session. But with VR, you're getting their attention. That's the right target audience, and they really enjoy it.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense, and I think it's really intelligent to kind of like reevaluate like the way you're approaching different types of
Yeah,
demographics or like age groups of people. Like
yeah,
obviously, kids are going to be like, "Oh yeah, I'm therapy." It's not therapy to the kid. It's just like they're in VR, but it's a guided therapy session. It might not look or feel like therapy,
mhm,
which is like really important with like kids with short attention spans. It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I
Like,
think it's a very creative use.
yeah, like, hey mom, during the day I'm playing Gorilla Tag in VR, but when I go to my therapist, she's showing me some cool stuff. I learn how to cope with my emotions when I lose games. I learn how lose the anger, right? How to manage the anger, how to lose the anxiety. So yeah, this this is
You know what's a
fascinating.
really cool part? A cool part of that, and I'm not a therapist, but like, just from like observing, it's like humans, we a lot of our like the things that they're working through are things that are like physically important. Like they're doing this action, they're like this thing that they were trying to work through, like specifically say like OCD, right? This there's this impulse to like do this like physical action. Some people it's more of a mental thing, but having this capacity to like work inside of a 3D space and like go through the physical fixes instead of just sitting in a chair and talking about what you're supposed to do, you're actually practicing the change, which is like really, really important. And it's in a safe space where they can kind of like work through it in the way that they feel comfortable. That's really important to like make that mind body connection to like fixing the problem. Because once they leave that office, you just have to assume they're doing the thing. If you can get a little bit of like physical practice in of the actual therapy, like that's awesome, right?
Mhm,
That's amazing.
mhm.
What a useful tool.
And no, we're totally on the same page. And I'll add something on top that it's great that MetaQuest is everywhere. You can go to the Costco, you can go to the Best Buy, you can find a headset because if someone have a headset at home, there is a notion of continuous training. So, for example, you can go to the therapist, you can run a session, you can work with your phobia or with your anxiety, but it's very necessary to keep doing, to keep going. And at home, people can do some coping strategies, can learn how to apply breathing, or just can practice a safe place, creating my inner child safe place. So, I like something about the VR that it's now becoming everywhere.
Yeah, it's the headsets are becoming cheaper, they're becoming
Yeah.
more available in more stores, in more countries, and the beautiful accessibility of being able to take it pretty much anywhere. As long as there's Wi-Fi, some experiences don't need Wi-Fi because
Yeah.
you download the game and you can do this anywhere you want, which is the mobility of it is excellent, especially for like therapy. You can wherever you're at, if you got the time and you need to do your thing, you can go into VR and it's private. That's the other cool thing about it is, like, no one can see what you're
Yeah.
going, like, into your VR headset to do, which is really cool. So that I think the power of this thing is rather incredible, and this
Yeah.
is, I'm very happy so far with, the Meta Quest 3.
Yeah.
It's been a
Well,
pretty fun thing to play around with.
I still have my Quest 3. Majority of our clients are buying Quest 3S. I've been kind of testing multiple headsets. I still find Quest 3 such a great device nowadays. And I really like that you got this. You're using Bobo VR or
I am.
what's
Yeah,
your Bobo
this is the
VR?
Bobo.
All right,
Yeah.
very comfortable, especially when therapy session is running like more than 15-20 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, with just a rubber strap that Meta offer from the box, it the therapy, it's hard. So no, this strap
Yeah,
is
which is
great.
I love this one. Bobo's and it's so cheap. It's like I think it was like 70 or $80 for this whole setup. It
It's a
comes
great
with a
addition.
detachable battery pack so you can
Mm-hmm.
like run long sessions. It's got this back headrest which is really really nice and
Mm-hmm.
very very comfortable for a longer period of time.
Yeah.
Which has always been a big deal for VR is in AR is weight of the headset. That there's weight fatigue that you get. So that for therapy sessions that's important. 'Cause those
Yep.
usually go, what, 30 minutes to an hour? I don't know if
Right.
you're in VR the whole time, but,
Yeah. Prolonged
that's
exposure
a
protocols. Right. Right. No. You're absolutely right. And one more thing I could add. There's another thing. So sometimes people getting a fatigue of just wearing a headset, but sometimes people have a motion sickness, right, of the VR.
yeah,
And
I get it bad.
it's it was a very popular question when we start pitching PsyTech VR to investors. People like, out of my experience, I feel nausea after a second. So someone playing. And it's interesting, but there is now a lot of studies that show like how this motion sickness is happening, right? You're losing the balance of your inner ear, kind of you sitting, and in the VR you're flying. Oh, your brain got tricked. So
Right.
there is a sound of a special frequency. It's about a 100 hertz, and if you bring the sound, it really helps to balance the inner ear of a person. It's called Sound Spice. There's a Nagoya University and a couple of other universities you can check out on Google. It's called Sound Spice. So when you feel sick,
Wow.
where if you're like on a boat or driving a car, on in a VR, activate the Sound Spice sound on a YouTube. At PsyTech, we have it on our platform. So the clinician just clicks Sound Spice, and the client in the headset can hear the sound of a special frequency, and it's like a magic. You just relieve the motion sickness feeling within 5-6 seconds.
That's remarkable. I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
'Cause I studied cyber sickness, pretty deeply because I was like I found it fascinating. I was like, "Wow," because this is like a really big barrier to the VR industry and, AR too, but I think much less. That'll be more like ocular strain over long periods of time, but VR is this, unique one because 'cause you're fully occluded, and if your eyes aren't matching what your body's feeling, that's where you get this, like, motion sickness, right? So that having that like, like, that's fascinating. Having, like, the technology and the science behind a sound that you can implement that will help alleviate that issue by, the science of what is it, the cochlea or, like, there's a
Yeah.
your balance is like there's, like, a piece of calcium in, like, a little divot or
Uh-huh.
something. It's like, people who get, what's that? Where you get really dizzy? I forget the symptom, what that's a symptom of.
Oh, ChatGPT? But no, sorry, I also don't
It's
remember.
escaping me.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, no, it's like it's cool that we can like curtail those effects with it's just using a frequency. That's incredible.
Yeah, yeah. This
How did you
helps.
stumble upon that? Did you mention
Oh,
how you came across that?
this well, I think just been browsing some Medium articles and found out like Sound Spice, and I was like, Wow. Why don't we bring the sound bites of PsyTech? So yeah, it's
That's
just a
so
one
cool.
button.
Yeah.
You click it. It really helps because specifically therapists deal with new VR users that have never ever tried VR. Maybe for fun for a few minutes. But you're absolutely right. The session go for 15, sometimes even half an hour.
Yeah, that's cool that you guys found a solution there to what's rather a more common problem for people who use VR. And then it's I don't always get cyber sickness from VR. It's only certain experiences. Some of the more calmer stuff where you're not moving too much
Right.
in the visual space is like those ones really bother me. But well, thankfully for like most therapy sessions, you're probably not doing like crazy, ocular motions. Yeah, so
That,
that's not. But it's cool that you have that.
Yeah, and that's why you need a platform, right? So mental health providers will probably, because they're so busy, they will never come up with the idea of like, oh wow, my client feel motion sickness. It's better just to take it off. Well, the platform offers different things.
Yeah, and AR should be pretty helpful for you guys in the future once we have AR glasses
Yeah.
because I think the difference between the two and how you're not fully occluded will significantly reduce cyber sickness AR because you're passed through you're in your environment so your body's seeing where you're at.
Yeah.
So that I mean that would be a great for people who get awful cyber sickness and there's no helping them. Being able to switch over to like a pair of AR glasses and have somewhat of a similar experience would be super useful for you guys in the future.
Yeah.
It's cool. Tools, options. I have a question here for you. If you're up for another
Yeah.
one. Is there anything coming up for what you guys are working on that you can give us a sneak peek at that's not quite public?
Oh, okay. Okay. So I think I just revealed it something like 10 or 20 minutes ago. We're right now working on AI for creating 3D worlds because we start offering AI for creating 360 images, but people start saying like, well, if you're creating like a city or again, Iraqi destroyed village, it would be great just to have a small walk because we want to take the full potential of 60 degree of freedom, right? So currently,
Right. Yeah.
the our team, the R&D team, is working on exporting the 360 into the 3D world. And again, we'll try to make this workflow very simple, just kind of a create, export, open. That will work on. I really appreciate you mentioning Google Well now has the API. Unfortunately, the price for the API, well, I think if you're kind of creating something of like a 1 minute thing, you'll pay about $8, right? So which is
Okay.
still, and next you have to enhance because I think the final resolution is kind of about the HD. You have to enhance it, which makes it another kind of a $20 per video. So we want to get to the videos. Unfortunately, not there yet. So we decided that the middle interaction is gonna be the 3D worlds.
Yeah, I think that's like that's a great point to make. Now, I think that's like it's so cool that you have the option to API into it
Yeah.
in the first place, and then maybe use this as like for test videos to like show people like what you're working on for the future, and maybe get funding or something. But
Yeah.
yeah, the costs of AI tools. I spend quite a bit just testing AI tools, just to see if they work. And I'm doing this frequently, so it does it adds up. Hopefully AI can get a little cheaper here
Yeah.
in the future.
Yeah,
So
and
we can keep playing.
yeah, and maybe another thing I can come up with is the Apple ecosystem. So we're not yet on Apple, as I'll tell you honestly, like the clients we have, mental health providers, it's cheaper for them to buy 8 units of MetaQuest rather than just one Apple, right? And we haven't seen any interest
Yeah.
yet. But it seems like Apple is going a certain way that they're gonna bring another device which is gonna be united together with Apple Health kind of with things, and it would be creative. We can match all these lines, all these dots together. So, for example, someone is taking the Apple Vision headset, even doing a therapy at home, and next they got like Apple Watch. What's going on right here?
Yeah.
Next they got some in Apple in iPhone. They now have some questionnaires, fill in the questionnaires, and so it becomes like a whole ecosystem. So it's another way where we want to go. But we need to wait to
Yeah,
see
that
what's the
is
next headset.
Yeah, that is one thing Apple does is excellent at, is building ecosystems of products. I'd really hope that they can work out a way to get the price down a bit, to make it more available to more people. And I think that's what's really, really important right now. It's like, don't start off with a $3,000 headset. That's way out of the reach of so many people, including myself. It's like, even as someone who's like does this is like research and stuff. It's like, get the price down, and don't try to get it to a point where you're not sacrificing everything while making enough money, and like get people in so people can build and try it and get used to it and fall in love with the technology, and then we can build from there. That's just like so much more impactful to me. It's like, so hopefully we see that, so that guys like you can go in and build really cool products to help people with their ecosystem of products that Apple has. Yeah. I guess in closing, I'll ask you if you have if you have anything that you want to talk about the industry that we haven't covered yet, that you think is maybe important to bring up. And
Oh
if
yeah.
not, then you got something?
Yeah. For all these
Yeah, sure.
people
Yeah, go ahead.
who had a chance to listen to this one, we will really appreciate you listening this. And I want to share one insight. I want to share with you that in mental health and in the mental wellness landscape, there is a lot of different things that you can try to implement into the VR, into the AR. So, for example, we're doing the mental health where we're working with disorder. There's another very interesting piece, which is diseases, right? You can partner up with some institution to create something for people with schizophrenia. All right. This can be other people with some other diseases, mental diseases. So, I mean, the landscape, there's a lot of things to do here. So, guys, take this opportunity. Try something with augmented reality. Just, I'm always open on LinkedIn because I think I got a network of more than 1,000 mental health providers since we started using PsyTech VR. Majority of our clients. So, hey, it's a very interesting niche, and it seems like mental health. It's a very trendy topic, and people have more and more mental things year by year. So yeah, it's a very interesting market.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. If you guys out there are listening to this and you would love to work with PsyTech VR, uh, reach out to the through the links that I provide in the podcast notes. I'll put your LinkedIn on there. I'll put on your guys' website. I'll put on. Do you guys have a VR link for your app? I can throw that up on there. So all the affiliate links for SciTech VR and Daniel's personal LinkedIn, if you'd like to reach out, I'll throw in the podcast notes below.
Great.
Uh, yeah. In closing, I always ask, do you have a book or a website or an app besides SciTech VR that you think people should know about? That would be useful for them,
Absolutely.
and it doesn't have to be.
Sure. There is a
And it
book.
doesn't have to be extended reality based. Yeah,
Well,
whatever.
there is a book which I would highly recommend. I'm gonna share my screen just in a few seconds. This book is right in front of me in a few seconds. So we used to have, so like one of our advisors was Dr. Elizabeth McMahon. Unfortunately, she passed away half a year ago, but she's the lady who completely changed the whole industry because she herself she discovered she's a clinical psychologist with a lot of years in the industry, and she discovered a VR so many years ago. She started offering it, and she even wrote a book. So the book, yeah, it's for mental health providers, but I'll tell you something. This book, it's I mean, it's simple and it's quite clear. It's easy to understand. So if you're in the VR or if you're just in the therapy or let's say some kind of other area, have a look at this book. It's worth it.
Yeah, that's a great recommendation. It looks pretty rad. I didn't. That's and it's great that it's specifically up your alley for virtual reality and therapy for anxiety, which is cool. There's probably like that's like one of like maybe two books. If maybe it's the only one that has ever been written specifically for
Yeah,
VR and
it
therapy. So
seems so. It
yeah.
seems so. And actually, I was just with my co-founder speaking about this. It seems like, I mean, the book for the industry is quite well known, but outside of the industry, well, time will fly. We'll see, but it's very helpful. Yeah.
Well, I'll add a link to that book down below as well, so that anybody who's interested in that can go and check that out for themselves. Daniil, I want to say thank you for joining me on the podcast today. I think this was like a really insightful conversation.
Yeah.
Learned a lot about what you guys are building over there, and your thoughts on the future for how we approach the intersection of tech and therapy.
I'm super happy. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. We'll talk to you soon.